Morning, everyone. I hope you can't see my head. I had a #1 haircut last week, and as my wife says, I look like a criminal. But Will, thank you very much for the intro. You are way too kind, so no pressure. And Gail, who's joined us, has thanked us. In fact, ahead of the presentation. So perhaps I should stop now whilst I'm ahead. Anyway. Welcome. Now, what we're going to do is talk about how to future-proof your business. Now, if the truth be known, there is no way that you can tell the future. There's no way that we can absolutely know with 100% certainty of what's going to happen this afternoon, tomorrow, day after that, next week, next year. We just don't know. So the whole idea of this presentation is to essentially just help you get your business in the best possible position so that when the future does change, you can be actually in a better place, okay? For example, with coronavirus, no one could foretell that, but some businesses, some small ones, of course, were in a very good place to handle that. Most were not in a good place. So I hope you get something out of today, and let's get cracking. Okay, so now, for some reason, it hasn't advanced. Oh, there it is. That's me. As you can see, I've got a great head for radio. And away we go. Now, I'm splitting this in half, okay? We only have just under 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do for the first half of our time together, I'm going to present. And for the second half, we're going to have Q&A. I can't stand going to workshops, seminars, presentations, and so on, and they spend a lot of time on presenting all this content, and for some reason the Q&A is squeezed into a little short time at the end, okay? Your questions and hopefully my answers are actually really, really important. That's why first half, I'm going to present. The second half, you can ask me anything you want based upon the things that I've shared with you. So I hope that's okay. So as the apple is, we're going to cut it in half. Now, because of our time, we only have about 12 or 13 minutes for this half. I want you to be aware of two things when it comes to future-proofing your business. Two things, not 5, not 4, not 3, just 2. And these are 2 things that you can do. You don't have to hire a consultant. You don't have to consult an advisor. You don't have to go and see your accountant or your lawyer or your bank manager. These are 2 things that you can do. And if you're not doing them, perhaps you are already. But if you're not, these are 2 things that you can do almost straight away, and they won't cost you a cent. It's usually in terms of changing one's attitude to these things. Okay, so the first thing, okay, we see the 1 and the ST. The first thing is customer experience. Customer experience. Now, can anyone here, because I want a little bit of interaction here, if it's okay, can anyone here give me a definition of what is customer experience? Just go to the chat and just tell me if in the chat what is customer experience. There's no right or wrong answer. Well, there are, but I won't be too hard. Okay, so come on, get into the chat. Just 2 or 3 of you, please. Define what the way, okay, thank you, Gail. The way you make a customer feel, very, very good. Paul, thank you. How your customers feel after dealing with you, thank you, Paul. Will, when the customer thinks, what the customer thinks and feels about the business. And Anna, thank you, how they feel. Look, you're absolutely spot on. That is absolutely you're on the right track, okay? So that's exactly what it is, okay? That is what customer experience is. And we have from, Marion Smith, one of my clients. Customer feels they have been heard. Oh, Marion, that's very, very good. Okay, so just moving right along, just gonna get rid of this chat, okay? What is customer experience? It's all those things. It usually involves 2 things. It involves people, because people interact with the customer or the client, and product, or if you're a service-based at a business, product/service, okay? So that's what it is, okay? So that is one thing that you can do to future-proof your business. You want the best possible customer experience that you could possibly engineer, if that makes sense. Now, the thing about it is, a lot of people say to me when I advise a small business is the fact that they think, oh, look, we just don't have the time, we don't have the resources, we don't have the cash to invest in all this. No. It's not about those things. It's about making sure that your customer is having the best experience possible. Okay. Can people here, again through the chat, share with me, okay, what are some of the elements that would make up a good customer experience? Just a few key words. What makes up a good customer experience? So, like before, if you can just share, that'd be great. What makes a good customer experience? Come on, people, I'm waiting. Here we go, come on. Waiting for you all, here we go. Okay, what makes a good customer experience? Okay, gosh, Marie, mate, Marie, Marion, Craig, thank you. Craig has said value. Adriana has said quick to respond. Paul, responsive feedback. Marie has come up with a whole list: answering calls, replying to emails, listening to their concerns, speaking to a human who listens. Thank you, Gail. That's absolutely right. Follow up after the first service. Thank you very much, Anna. And Rick, exceeding expectations. Look, absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. All those things, okay, make up a good customer experience. Now, what tends to happen, and again, if you can get to the chat, what tends to happen if you have a good customer experience? You as a customer, what tends to happen when you've had a good experience? And I won't give you any hints. You've had a good experience, what do you do? Okay, thank you, Marie. We pay for the product or the service. That's great. Okay, some other people, please. Of course, we pay. We go back. Spot on. Adriana, fantastic. We return back to the business. We repeat business. Will Adams, that's why they pay you the big bucks, baby. We tell our friends. Paul, we tell our friends. Marie, we tell our friends to tell people about it. This is the gold standard, word of mouth, okay? A great customer experience, okay? Now, I live in the suburb of Mona Vale, and at last counts, these include the 3 cafes at the beach, but essentially there are 32 places in the suburb of Mona Vale where you can actually buy an espresso coffee. Thanks, Rachel. We also post about them on social media. Very, 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 very good. Look, you guys are spot on. So getting back to my story, in the suburb of Mona Vale, in which I live, there are 33 now, 33 places that you can buy an espresso coffee. Now, the bulk of them are cafes, but some of them are bakeries, some of them are, cake shops, that sort of thing. But there are 33 places in Mona Vale where you can get a really good cup of coffee or an espresso, okay? Now, I go to this one place, okay, and I go to cafes a lot because I don't like to work from home. So I go to a cafe, and I've got this rule that for every hour that I'm there, I spend $10, because it's not fair on the cafe owner to tie up a table for 5 hours and not spend money. Not that I'm there for 5 hours. If I'm there for 2 hours, I'll spend around $20. Anyway, there's this one place that I go to that doesn't spend a single cent on advertising. It doesn't have a rememberable name or whatever, but it was bought by this young chap whose name is Baz, early 30s, and he's had it now for 5 years, and all he's done is provide consistency, tremendous service, okay? And to the extent that the differentiator that they have are people and product. It's not just a cafe, it's also a delicatessen, and they sell, it's expensive, but they sell really nice food, like really, really good food. But the reason that I go back there, now I'm a fairly friendly person, like you guys are, I'm sure, but they remember my name, I remember theirs, they remember my order, and they know a little bit about me. And I've gone there probably over the years 100 times, 200 times, or whatever, okay? That is a great customer experience to the extent that I've told people about it and they actually did well during coronavirus, as well as can be expected. They had to shut down, take away service and so on. But they've done really well and they haven't spent a single, it's an unsophisticated operation. It's a nice, clean, consistent operation, but they have 5-star customer experience, okay? Now, if we turn the coin onto the other side, we speak about what is bad customer experience. It's essentially the opposite of all the things that you've said, Gail and Marion, Rachel, Paul, and so on, and Will. Okay, so let's move along, okay? So that is the first thing that you can future-proof your business. If you provide fantastic or great or a wonderful customer experience. That's the first thing. Now, moving along to our next slide. The second thing, okay, there it is. The second thing is, and some of you touched upon this in the chat room, you actually listen to your customers. You actually listen to your customers, okay? Now, people say, oh, James, I do that all the time. I do that all the time. Yeah, sure. And that's good. But you need to essentially listen to the good things, the bad things, and the ugly things. And in this day and age, there are many ways to effectively listen, okay? So, in the chat room, can someone here, oh, and thank you, Gail, for that last comment. Personalized customer service works every time. Fantastic. Okay. Can you all just give me a couple of ways in which a business owner, be they the owner of a cafe, hairdresser, a local lawyer, an accountant, whatever the offering is, be it the product or the service, okay? What are some ways that the business owner can actually put in place things that allow that owner to listen to their customers / clients? Shoot, you ask them. Very good, Rick. You'd be surprised how many feedback cards, Google review. Yep, please. Thanks, Rob, for that. Paul, allow and ask for feedback. Yep, that's good. Google review. A couple more, please. Feedback cards and box for not wanting to confront. That's great. Follow up, Rachel. Survey Monkey. Yes, Rachel. That's Rachel, you're so now. Fantastic. Survey Monkey. Love it. Look, all those things exist, okay? I'm very old, so although I'm adept with social media and I'm tech savvy, I really like to ask people face to face, but as some people have indicated, some people find that a little bit confronting and so forth. And you don't want to put the person that you're asking in a difficult position. How many of you, and I just want an indication, have caught an Uber and you feel you feel the obligation, the pressure to actually give a 5-star review? Oh, thanks, Will, for that. Ask a simple question about how you could do better next time. Fantastic, spot on. With Uber, how many people, I'll start off with, I've only caught Uber a handful of times across the years, but I've had to give 5-star sort of reviews to everyone because I just feel the pressure that their livelihood depends on it. From Marie, laughing out loud, yes, it's awkward. Yes, Gail, yes, not called an Uber, but every time I eat at a restaurant, I get a review form, I only fill it in if it's good. Oh, Rachel, you're a brave person, that's good. So look, the thing about it is a lot of those Uber reviews, even some of the Google reviews, they are biased, okay, to the extent that sometimes people feel that they don't want to bring down, like say, for example, I use this software developer overseas about 3 years ago, and they had a very high review. I think the platform that I was using was freelancer.com. And they gave a good service, and I gave them 4.3 stars. That's the way that the average played out. I was contacted by them, very upset, and they said, why have you given us such a low review? I said, but I've given you 4.3 stars, but that's going to drag us down. Can you please review that? And I didn't want to upset them and so forth. And I was put in a difficult position where, to my shame, I actually lied and said that they gave a 5-star service, because this guy said, look, our livelihood depends on this and so on. So it's artificial. The best way I find is to essentially ask a couple of customers, like Will had said in the chat room, ask what we're doing good and what are ways in which we can do more of that. But also to ask, what are some areas, not that we're weak at or anything like that, because you don't want to confront people. What are some areas that we can improve? How can we do better? But you don't just ask one person. You don't ask your favorite client, because that's not going to work, okay? You've got to ask a cross section. You can do that via a whole range of things. If you feel comfortable and they feel comfortable, then by all means do it face to face or via the phone or whatever. But it's something that you need to do, not every day or every week and so on, but you need to do it 2 or 3 times a year, at different times of the year, different times of the week and so forth, just so that you can get a real sense of what is going well and what's not going so well, but what can be improved, okay? Now, a lot of large corporations that have shops and so on hire so-called, I have trouble saying it, mystery shoppers who go in there and pretend they're a real sort of customer, and they go through a transaction, they give a report and so on. So, but that can be very expensive. Now, Rachel shared, I actually have a Facebook group for my clients, but only a few of them that are active on social media. Great idea. Now, these two things bring together something which is the best way to future-proof yourself, and that is a brand. And I'm not talking of the brand. You don't have to compete with an Apple. You don't have to compete with, an Adidas or an Amazon or whatever. But my local cafe / delicatessen that I had said that I'd shared with you before, it's called Quattro Stagioni. And for those people who speak Italian, it means 4 seasons. It's not all that means to me is that it means that it's a friendly place, it's consistent, it's clean, it's reasonably priced, that people are really sort of friendly. I have to look for reasons to not go there, okay? So those things really, really count. And Rick Florence has shared in the chat room, I'm thinking of bringing in an independent person to ask my clients to prompt them to be more open. Fantastic. And that independent person could be a friend. You don't have to spend a fortune on it. Like you can bring in someone that's objective, okay? Maybe not a friend, maybe someone who's a friend of a friend. Who knows? Okay, so remaining true to the request, we now have 11 minutes. I've gone a little bit over half time. So now it's time for questions. And thank you very much. This screen tells you what to do next. Thank you very much, Will, at Ku-ring-gai Council and New South Wales Government, who allows this to happen. There's the website, and New South Wales Government through Business Connect provide 4 hours of advisory help with someone like me. 4 hours completely free of charge, and that's fantastic. And if you're on JobKeeper, you get a lot more than 4 free hours. So there you go. And Marie has shared, wow, I mystery shop my clients before I work with them. Very, very good. Fantastic. So we now move into Q&A. So shoot, you can ask me anything you want. So by all means, share the questions via the chat box.
I'll ask you a question, James, while other people hopefully are typing. So you talk about brand. Now, a lot of people have a perception of what a brand is. Can you just describe what a brand actually is?
Yeah, sure. Most people think that a brand is a word or a symbol or a sort of logo. One of the most famous brands in the world is Coca-Cola, and that's what people call a brand. But brand itself isn't just the 2 words, Coca-Cola. It's what it represents. It's the tagline, the real thing. It's the way that you feel when you drink a Coke, that it's cool, refreshing, and so on a hot day, and that beautiful people jumping off a barge in the Indian Ocean. It actually represents something. And essentially the brand is, just to, break it down, it's how you feel when you drink, when you eat, or when you engage with that brand. Like say, for example, I bought an Apple. I went completely Apple about 7 years ago, and for some strange reason, I feel smarter or I feel cooler because I have an Apple. But the products are really, really good. But I felt really cool when I had my first Apple MacBook 7 years ago, and I opened it up, the aluminium case, and I've got heaps of RAM. So I felt really cool. So brand is representative of what the customer experience is or should be.
Okay, so on that basis, then I guess any touch point where your customer reaches out to you, and that's in the sales process, that's in looking at your website, that's in receiving your service. I guess it's all part of your brand. It's about how people feel when they deal with your product or service.
Spot on. In fact, your answer is better than mine, so well done. Thank you.
I worked in branding for a while, Paul. So a question from Paul Dina. James, what's your take on sending out a survey form as part of your newsletter versus just a survey form? So that's sending something out with a newsletter or something on its own. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's better to send out one thing for one purpose. A survey form, and there's lots of tools that you can do. I prefer online ones that take less than 2 minutes. So instead of bundling it with a newsletter and so on, just send out a survey form. Just say, look, really want to hear what you think. This will take less, and you use the words less, so long as it's telling the truth, less than 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And the big thing about it is a lot of people fill out these survey forms and they don't know what happens. What I like to do is survey people, prepare a report for myself, institute those things that I think really make sense, but actually go back to the person who came up with the idea and to actually thank them. In some situations, I've actually given them a gift because their idea or their perspective and so on was really, really helpful. So, and you can't do that with everyone, but certainly you can do that with the people that really help you, that really make sense.
Yeah, and that's one thing that, because I wear two hats in my role, and so I do a lot of surveys and community engagement work. So one of the things that we really struggle with is actually people contributing and then letting them know what we've done with the information. So I think that's really important. We call that closing the engagement loop, and it's just as applicable in the example you just gave, James, because people might invest their time and then hear nothing again. So I think it's showing that the feedback has been valued and has been used, and maybe even to say, we've heard all this feedback from you, this is what we've done to improve our service to you, because it makes you feel more engaged with the business.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Great.
Oh no, they can see my head now.
So I've got another question or a comment. One sec in the chat. Oh, sorry. I still believe phoning our customers and talking to them is much better than emailing. Yeah, that can be true. Depends on your numbers, I guess. It might take longer, but it's always been the best touch point. I know Rachel, I know Rachel well, and she's very skilled and a very approachable person. So I guess that would work very well for you, Rachel. What are your thoughts on that, James?
Look, if you have the time and you're the type of, I would much prefer to phone. In fact, I would much prefer to see someone face to face when my hair grows back. It's pretty ugly. But Rachel makes a really good point. The only thing with phoning is that you don't want to lead the person. You want to ask a question, then you listen. You don't add to their answer. You don't edit their answer on the way. Now, I'm sure sort of Rachel is experienced and so on, but sometimes I want to guide the person down a certain alley, and sometimes that's really, really hard to do. Right. As long as they bring you coffee, Jay. Yes, that's very good. Very good.
Bringing coffee. Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, Rachel, is it really it really depends on your business. I would suggest, and the relationships that you have with your customers. If you've got 10,000 customers, you're not going to phone them. But if you're a small business, or each of your clients is fairly high value, then you can provide that personal attention on a regular basis. We talked about feedback, James. Now, earlier on, you were talking about the customer experience. Do you have any examples, apart from the cafe, of where people have really delivered customer service, which has been, so surprisingly good that people have consistently come back?
Oh, absolutely. There are a lot of things. There's a local sort of business, and I won't share their name, it's not appropriate, but come the coronavirus pandemic, they knew that people were locked down and so on. So what they did, they went very old school. They actually went around. Now, this place is only a 5-minute drive from where I live, and to my shame, I didn't know that they existed. But what they did, which is really, really smart, they basically put together something that gave Woolworths and Coles the idea for an online house at a box thing. Basically, those essential grocery items in one box for a fixed price, brought to your door. Just one click and you're away. This firm actually did it. It's only a small firm. They basically put in meat, some fruit and veg, milk, eggs, and so on in one pack. You go online, you hit one click. It was very sort of reasonable price.
Yep.
And you go back.
Yep.
And you go back and back and back, and people buy basically for a week. And the feedback that they got was just absolutely brilliant, because what tended to happen was that people were buying for their elderly parents who couldn't leave the home and having the box taken straight to their front door.
Yep. And
the feedback from something like that, such a local sort of business, that was not a sophisticated business. They were a small goods importer. But what they did, they stepped out. They bought in milk, they bought in bread and so on, and put together these packs.
Yep.
And it made a lot of sense, and they did exceptionally well. I just hope that post-corona that they keep that up, because that would have been a hard thing. But the feedback that they got was absolutely sensational.
Well, that what you've just underpinned there is knowing your customers and building that brand, because people will think, oh, those guys are great. They did a really good service. They stepped in when it was required. They're community minded. All of these things, and these are the things which really get your brand into the front of people's minds. Now, I just got a comment from Gail here, which if you have too many clients, you can divide them by importance to you, plus or minus which communication vehicle they prefer. That's absolutely right. And obviously, if you've got some high value clients, they may require a little bit more personal attention, but you might have a whole list of secondary clients who may not require so much attention. And I guess that's really important, Gail, and a really good point. And thank you for sharing. Now, we're just getting to the last minute, James. Any one or two very quick pieces of advice? And also, obviously, sign up to Business Connect, because if you didn't, it's free business advice provided by the state government. You'd be silly not to do it. You may not get anything out of it, but I'm sure you will get lots out of it. So please go Google Business Connect, sign up. It's free. Do it. James, last couple of points.
Okay, just in the remaining time, just one point, if I may. People often think that with these things that, hey, look, like we need a big splash, we need a big announcement, we need a big launch and so on. No. Especially with small sort of business. It's to do those small things consistently and well. That's what counts. It's much better to do one or two small things well each week, each month, each quarter, and so on, and build up and up and up, than it is to, hey, we're going to have a big splash in 6 months' time and spend all our money and all our effort on that one big event. Depending upon the market, that tends not to work in small business. So I would encourage everyone, think small, but think consistent and do things well.
Great.
That's it.
Consistency is key. Thank you, James. Thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you at our next session, which is on Thursday. Have a look at the website, and yeah, I've recorded this session, which I will share afterwards. So please have a lovely day, and we'll speak to you very soon. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Will. Thanks
James.
everyone.
See you,
so long.